Hey,
Whoa, I didn't know you could call.
what do you
How
mean?
did you do that? Well, like, I'm sitting here eating breakfast and it's like, dun, 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 dun. I'm like, oh my gosh, it's noon. And you were like calling me. How did that happen?
I think it's because we're connected through the app itself. So
Mm.
it just said to invite you through Zoom contacts.
Mm, cool. Where in the
So
world are you? Did I see on Instagram you're camping right
I just got back. Yeah, I went on a mountain biking trip with a buddy of mine. It's about 2.5 hours north of Los Angeles, but because of LA traffic, it took us 4 hours to get there.
now? Seriously?
um, And then, yeah, we just camped one night, and then now I'm back at my dad's place in Palos Verdes. It's like just south of LA.
Cool. How are you enjoying
Yeah,
that?
it's good. I mean, we weren't really getting the heat until just recently. In the last 2 days, it's been kind of nuts.
Over here too. In Edmonton, it's been raining all the time, and just the last 2 days, it's been really hot. And now we're back to like cold, rainy, windy weather.
Yeah.
Well, that's a
Well,
different.
anyway, on that positive note, I don't see any vaginas anywhere. Those look like
No,
butterflies or flowers or
but
something.
you know what that is?
What?
That is my latest picture that I painted with my menstrual blood.
No way.
And those flowers are orchids. Isn't that
Yeah,
pretty?
dude. So, well, I can't. It's so
Bella.
bright here where I am. It's because uh, I can't really see the color. Is it just like red and white?
Yeah.
Oh,
So
okay.
the red is where I use the blood. And when I first painted it, it was really bright red. But now it's been like 2 or 3 cycles ago. So the blood like is kind of browned a little bit.
It's oxidizing.
But well, I
uh,
was saving my blood in a mason jar for a while, and like just putting it underneath like the sink in my bathroom. But it got really like bad, foul smelling really fast. And
well, I mean, it is a biohazard in a
yeah,
sense,
totally.
right?
Now if I'm
So,
gonna save it, like I just if I'm gonna save it for any reason, I always just save it in the fridge, and then I
oh,
use it to like I put it in, I mix it with water and I put it in my plants. I put it on my body a lot of times. I paint with it. I drink
yeah.
it sometimes.
But it
But
is a precious commodity, right? Because it's not that much.
no, it's about, and that's a huge like misconception. Like women think that they're just like flooding the place, and then I actually have them measure using like the cup, and most women are really surprised that you're only bleeding between like 30 to 60 milliliters for the whole period. That's like 2 to 4 tablespoons.
Yeah, exactly. So, like, when you talk about all these different projects, it's like, well, you're supply limited, aren't you?
I do something, so I use the cup too, and I'm actually on the heavier side of the. I think I usually use around like 60 to 70 milliliters each cycle. So I have like about a diva cup or a menstrual cup per day at least, and so I'll just use that cup and then do something with it right away. So I don't really do much saving of it anymore. So like for example, I kind of have like my own personal ritual. Like day one, I fill up my cup and I mix it with 10 parts water and give it to all my plants. Day two, I'll take out my cup at the end of the day and I will like paint with it or put it on my body. Day three, I'll mix it with orange juice and drink it. So, like, yeah, you're totally right. And
Yeah.
sometimes I'll get like these really great ideas of like what to do with it. And I have to like decide, you know, do I do it this cycle or next cycle? Because you're right, there's not that much of it.
As you're talking, I was like, so many questions pop up. So, when you determine like heavy or light, is that based on diet, or is that just happen to be your biology just happens to be that way?
Oh, do you mean oh, I see. The question is the amount of blood that women lose, like is that what influences that?
Yeah, like so when you say you're heavy, does that, I mean, like relative to your body weight? Is that what you're?
No, I was just going from the range that 30 to 60 milliliters is kind of
Uh,
considered normal. So sometimes I can be up to 60, 70, or even 90 milliliters. And according to medicine, more than 80 milliliters of blood is considered menorrhagia. And that's like the heavy flow that it shouldn't be that much. And so that's kind of like, which was really interesting when you asked me about what I thought about period pain, and how period pain isn't something that should be suppressed with, birth control pills or whatnot, because it's actually a sign that your body is telling you that something might be up. And it's kind of the same thing with the amount of blood you bleed. So if you're not bleeding enough, and you're bleeding like less than 30, less than 20 milliliters, my question is, are you even ovulating? That's no good from a health point of view. And whether you're bleeding too much, so you're bleeding like more than 80 milliliters, same thing. That's a sign. So that could be something like an iron deficiency. That could be a hormone imbalance, like an estrogen dominant or progesterone deficiency condition. So putting all of the pieces together, like, is there period pain? How much blood are you using or losing? Or using, for that matter. What color is it? Is there clots in it? So looking at the whole picture can give you a lot of ideas of what's going on. And then if you're someone who charts like myself, not only do you have your period, but you have your whole cycle to give you that feedback. What's your cervical mucus pattern look like? How many days do you have in your luteal phase? What other kind of physical symptoms are you experiencing 2 weeks before your period? So that's when the whole female reproductive cycle, not just menstruation, turns into a feedback tool, like a window into a woman's health.
So being a guy without a period, I feel like you skipped over a lot of stuff. So wait, you're saying that there should not be any clots, that it should just be like smooth fluid?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, so when I think of like shedding the uterine lining, I'm imagining like tissue.
Yeah,
but then the tissue becomes fluid?
It's not just blood. Like there's endometrial lining, there's cervical mucus qualities, definitely. And people who collect their blood in a menstrual cup will appreciate that, because they'll have to actually interact, touch, see, smell, taste it. So they will know what's normal for them, and then when it's not normal, versus if you use like a tampon or a pad and you don't even like really pay attention. But no, if you're noticing like a lot of clots, especially bigger than the size of quarters, not sure what American coin I could compare that to, but
like
if
a
they're
thumbnail,
bigger than that,
maybe?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, if they're bigger than that, then like that's a sign of something. I don't want to necessarily use the terms bad or broken or you know problematic, but it's a sign. Like for example, clots often represent stagnation. So like flow, like the flow isn't happening. It's often like old blood. There's often a progesterone deficiency. Maybe it's something as simple as she's just not drinking enough water. So, or it could be like something a little bit more intense, like maybe a thyroid problem or some other underlying medical condition. But it's hard to like, this is not a, like, so first of all, this is not a, how do I put this? Like, you know, A is the problem, B is the solution situation.
You know, the way that sounds like is the period pain is just like a general check engine light. You know, it doesn't actually tell you anything just besides something needs attention.
So there's like layers, there is some detective work, there is some trial and error that you do when you're starting to figure out what is my body trying to tell me. And of course, the more things you track, the more things you pay attention to, the easier it is. So
like you were saying that like if you were to just check your blood volume one time and for the first time and think that you have, what was that called if you bleed too much?
Menorrhagia.
Yeah, but you would have to actually check it several cycles in a row to determine that your baseline is a little bit on the heavier side anyway, so it's nothing to panic about.
That's a really good point too, because as a fertility awareness educator, as soon as I start talking to like new clients about this kind of stuff, immediately they like have one chart and I'm like, oh my gosh, everything is wrong and nothing is the way it's supposed to be. And I'm like, whoa, calm down. Like I don't ever take one chart and make any kind of inferences off of one chart. Yeah. Especially because we're all allowed to have like one crazy chart. We're not wind up clocks. We're not robots. Like, you know, we're influenced by a lot of things. It's in the consistent repetition of these signs is where you kind of get a better idea of what's going on.
Mm.
And then that's why it's so important too to start paying attention so that you do know what's normal for you. Because I want to make a huge disclaimer in that it's not like, I don't want to say if you're bleeding, more or less than 50 milliliters, something is wrong. No, we have a range, right? And so you need to find out what's your normal so that then you can identify when things aren't normal. But there are like generic, like things like, for example, period pain is not normal. So
interesting.
You not have period pain. Like, we tend to believe that period pain is normal because everyone has it and it's just something that comes with having a uterus, but that's not true. Now, keep in mind, like, let me be clear, when a woman is menstruating, her endometrial lining is literally being cramped out of her uterus. So there's going to be some discomfort, don't get me wrong, especially in the first day or two. And maybe
right, but the misery that's reported. And that's the thing, I think common is not healthy. Like there's a difference between common and healthy. And that's, that's what I really wanted to get at the heart of this conversation is to get that message through and to figure out like, well, what's actually causing that pain?
I want to say almost all period pain can be found under one of more 5 categories. So you have hormone imbalance. So that would be like an estrogen dominant condition or a progesterone deficiency condition. You also have an underlying medical condition. So that could be like uterine fibroids, endometriosis, a thyroid problem or an autoimmune problem, a structural issue like a tilted uterus, even the copper IUD or having an infection like an STI. The third one is a nutrient deficiency. So maybe she's deficient in iron, maybe she's deficient in magnesium, or she's not having enough good fats or having a good omega-3 to omega-6 ratio. The fourth one is food allergies or sensitivities, or just eating foods that are causing too much inflammation in your body. Like the biggest players in the game are alcohol, sugar, and wheat, right?
Yeah.
And dairy. That's another one. And then the last one is like emotional. There could be like an emotional or like subconscious thing going on. And I find this one really, really interesting. I probably know the least amount about it personally, but I do find it really interesting in that take, for example, I have this book I like called The Healing Power of Illness. And it was written way back in like the 1980s, 1983. And I'm going to ruin the author's name, so I'm not going to even try. But they talk about how the menstrual cycle, or menstruation, is a reflection of femininity, of feminine principles, like self-surrender, like, what are they? I wrote them here so don't forget. Openness, receptivity, sensitivity. And that they suggest if you have really bad period pain, that you're actually finding it painful to be a woman. And that's coming out in your periods. Or you're rejecting some kind of feminine quality about yourself. I have heard stories of women who, like I've heard stories of women who literally have told me, like, I do not like being a woman. And then they go on to tell me about, their awful period pain. And then when they unpack that, journal about it, move on the other side of that, the period pain completely disappears. So it might not even be like a physical, the physical manifestation might actually be starting from more of an emotional or subconscious or even, shadow side thing. Yeah. So not a cookie cutter, one size fits all problem. I often get a lot of people coming to me like, okay, I have period pain, what should I do? All right, where's my book? Like all of the things. It's like, that's what I mean. It's like trial and error. And you kind of have to start with, okay, what's your situation? What are your signs? Where can we start? So for example, a lot of simple things you can do is like eating foods rich in magnesium and iron, or even supplementing with magnesium, or taking Epsom salt baths, increasing your omega-3s and your good fats. So like ditching the vegetable oils and opting for more coconut oil or ghee. And what else? Oh, getting better sleep and resting, ditching the dairy or other inflammatory foods. And I always tell women or people with menstruate or people who are menstruating, because of course not all women menstruate and not all people who menstruate are women. But
wait, what?
Anyways, what I was gonna say was 3 months. Give it 3 months, and then if you don't see any change, then you want to start looking at some more of the more severe stuff like endometriosis, fibroids, adenomyosis. But anyways, my last comment was, not all people who have periods identify as women. and not
Oh,
all.
so that's not a biological statement. That's a
That's good.
political statement.
I have to be really careful because the more I do this work and the more I'm open about it online, the more I'm challenged with my inclusive language. And that's important to me. And so I want to respect that and honor that too.
Actually, well, now we're talking about, and I don't want to drone on this too much because this is its own thing, but a lot of what you're doing is like really biologically based. It's like the truth of who you really are. And so for me to say right now I'm a woman and for some reason that I don't understand my period is not coming, like there's a certain ridiculousness to that. Now, of course, if it's really important to me to make sure that you know that I think I'm a woman and you respect that, then that's great. But it's like, Chloe, I can't find out where to put my tampon. Can you help me? Like,
I understand where you're coming from, and in this particular situation, of course, you don't have like the biology or the anatomy to menstruate, and so this doesn't relate to you. Where I think it gets, I don't even know what the word I'm looking for is. Where it gets sensitive is when I use the term women, and then there are people who don't have, like if uteruses or menstruate, then they don't resonate with them, or
and they feel like you're excluding them. Is that okay?
You know what? Honestly, this is all new to me too. I'm just trying to, be kind and inclusive.
What if you call it like I work with vagina owners. That's who I work with.
You'll notice like in my 28 days, 28 video series that I did, I often use the term menstruator. And
interesting. Yeah. I actually really like that. And I wouldn't be surprised if a lot of people were to adopt that because it clears up so much.
The only thing that does suck is like, I have to say, as someone who is a woman, and this is actually really interesting because I wasn't always painting with my period blood. I wasn't always drinking it. I wasn't always charting my cycle. I wasn't always honoring or celebrating being a woman. And I think that when we do start talking about the emotional level of this kind of stuff and how society as a whole often does reject feminine principles and femininity and cycles and period blood, that, here I am like reclaiming my womanhood and be like, no, I'm a woman, I menstruate and I love it and I honor it and I celebrate it. I resonate with that word. I want to be a woman. I want like that. To me, that means, like I menstruate, I have these, but so sometimes I feel like when I don't use the term woman, I almost like I want to take that term, I don't know. Do you know what I'm saying? I haven't really thought this through it myself, but am I making any kind of sense? I just think like, for example, painful periods, sometimes it's, people who are having a hard time like being a woman, and now we can't even use that term, and now we have to like say menstruators but
it's almost like you have to compromise your identity to make sure that other people are comfortable.
I couldn't have said it better than that.
Yeah.
And then the other thing is too, so the other thing I have is like so one of my other pet peeves is that we really only focus on menstruation in the cycle when actually something amazing is happening every single day. And so sometimes as a menstruator, I use the term ovulator. All those ovulators up there, just to like remind people that ovulation is the like event of your cycle, and that menstruation is the product of ovulation. And it's really easy to, experience menstruation and know that you're menstruating. It's a lot more subtle to know when you're ovulating and to appreciate ovulation. So I play. If you ever have any ideas of inclusive language, let me know.
So when you were talking about the potential causes for period pain, a lot of those causes sounded like symptoms of birth control. So do you find that there's a strong relationship, like there's more period pain with women who are on birth control?
I find that women who are on birth control and then go off, that they experience a whole slew of menstrual irregularities after that.
Oh, during the adjustment? Wow. I mean, is that something you kind of like, okay, you're making a good decision, but brace yourself?
Yeah, well, and everybody experiences it differently. Like, for example, something as simple as even at what point will the woman start ovulating again? Like, some people, they go off hormonal contraception and boom, ovulating again, like, no problem. And then some women, it takes months or even years to start ovulating again. And so that's an ovulation drives the whole cycle, right? So that affects all the parameters from menstruation to, you know, her cervical mucus pattern and the health of her luteal phase. And so, yeah.
Well, I mean, I hope she doesn't mind. I'm talking about my girlfriend for a second. She, you know, she's on birth control. And when she came off of it, you know, the rebalancing was kind of brutal.
I hear about that a lot, especially like when women come off hormonal contraception and they have really bad acne. I'm like, no, like I want my clear skin back. Like, but so there's definitely a transitional time, and I like how you used the analogy of the engine light. And so taking hormonal contraception, it just like puts a piece of tape over the light. Like actually address why the light is on. And so like when I take on a new client, one of the first things I ask her is, well, how were your cycles before you were on hormonal contraception? Because if she was experiencing, you know, some problems or irregularities before, then those are all just going to come back and possibly worse because you haven't addressed it, right?
Yeah.
Even if you didn't experience problems before you were on hormonal birth control, the hormonal birth control itself can, you know, do its own damage. Like one of the worst things that it does is it completely sucks your body of all of its nutrients. So the first thing I tell women who go off the pill is like, you got to replenish all of your nutrients. Are you eating like real food, colorful food, you know, from all of your macronutrients, getting your micronutrients, because the pill is like a vacuum cleaner that just sucks that all up. So replenishing that is probably one of the first things that you do. And then making sure that you're also getting out all of those synthetic hormones that you've been putting in your body. So making sure that your elimination organs are working well. Are you having a bowel movement once a day? How healthy is your liver? How's your gut health? So this is all things that people are already talking about when it comes to health, right? Because it's all connected. So have you ever heard of the Spirit Weavers Gathering?
Not really.
It's an amazing women's gathering. It's about 5 days long. They do it over 2 sessions, a moon session and a sun session. And essentially, it's a remembering of ancestral ways between women. And they just they do it in Southern Oregon on a campsite called Cave Junction. They have acres and acres of land. There's a gorgeous river. There's a sauna. There's a kitchen cooking amazing food. It's incredible. So they offer a bunch of workshops for this remembering of ancestral ways, anything from like using plant dyes to herbal medicine to cervix portrait parties. So I went down and I offered the cervix portrait party, which was very fulfilling, and I loved to offer it. And yeah, it was really well received, and yeah, it was great.
Oh, that's funny. So when you take the picture, do you take it with like a Polaroid or something, and then you give it to, like, you wear it as a badge?
Well, I personally, where is it? Oh, I have it over here. I have an album of photos of cervixes that
so it's like a copy book or a coffee table book?
Yeah, that's exactly what I use it for. And I also have my own personal, photo, which you saw in our last interview where I have one framed. But so I need to use an actual camera, because how it works is the woman inserts her own speculum and opens it to make room so you can actually see the back of the vagina, so you can see the cervix. Yeah. And then I take a camera with a zoom that zooms out, and I put the zoom into the speculum. So it wouldn't work with like an iPhone because you can't get in there. So then I take the photo, or I just help coach them on taking their own photo, and then I send it to them. I send them a digital copy, and gosh, what are people doing with those photos? I don't know. I should. Yeah. But I have one of my really good friends who's like been to every single one of my cervix portrait parties. So she must have, I don't know how many photos of her cervix now. But her very first one, she also framed and put on top of her toilet in her bathroom. And it's hilarious because we always laugh when a man goes and uses the bathroom, because he's standing and he's looking at the wall, and so he's urinating while looking at her cervix, and it's like, Boom. How's that for a power move? And yeah, so there's that. Women ask if I'll take photos of their vulva. So I've taken a lot of photos of their vulva as well, which is the outside. So your mons pubis, your clitoris, your labia majora, minora. So I do a lot of that as well. But as far as internally, yeah, no, it's pretty much you got the vagina and the cervix.
Mm-hmm. So wait, so the other thing you were saying was just to take a picture, just like a close up, but from the outside, and okay.
So I'll be like taking a picture of their cervix, and like one woman from Spirit Weavers, so sweet, she was in her 60s, and she came and she wanted a photo of her cervix. And afterwards she asked me, she said, you know, Chloe, I'd really love a photo of my vulva too. I said, yes, of course we can do that. So I just love it. I love that no matter what age, you know, whatever point this stuff is introduced to you, like you can learn to love all of your parts and photos of them. Why not?
You know what I'm imagining is like when they do those, like when they want to introduce a hotel or something, they'll show the hotel from the outside, and then the camera will zoom in and the double doors will open and it'll show this pool on the inside. I'm imagining now you having like a video of like the vulva outside and then it opening and then it like diving in. Like,
I'm gonna make that happen.
Fly through video. In the last video that we did, I asked you, you know, what's something that every guy should know that we don't now, and you were talking about the 4 phases of women and how when you're with a woman, you're actually with 4 women because these things. And I brought that up to several people, and nobody knows what you're talking about. And
okay, but here's another question. Were they on hormonal contraception, or are they with people who are on hormonal contraception?
No. I mean, I brought that up to men. I was like, you're not gonna fucking believe what's actually going on. Let me explain you. And they're like, what? It was definitely news to me, and I feel like I'm kind of informed. Like you were saying, like if they're on contraception, then it kind of like muddles the phases. Oh, okay.
Yeah. So women who are on hormonal contraception don't cycle naturally. So they have completely kiboshed their natural cycle, their natural rhythm, and replaced it with synthetic hormones, which if you remember from last time I talked about is how it's kind of more like putting a woman into a chemically induced menopause where she's not anymore. So I think that now that charting and fertility awareness and being off hormonal contraception is becoming like a huge trend. Like it's something that people want to take back is their cycles and again, this femininity. And I think people are beginning to appreciate that more. In fact, a lot of women who I work with who go off hormonal contraception, they'll tell me like, wow, like this fog has lifted. And all of a sudden I feel I have all of these different emotions and I feel more vulnerable, but in a good way. And, I have these different feelings that I've never felt before, and that they do kind of feel this roller coaster. And some women immediately love it. And they're like, yes. And then others are like, whoa, what? Like, why are you crying? And so there's definitely, I think that a shift and women are beginning to appreciate that, because not only do our behaviors and our moods change throughout our cycle, but you can begin to like live in flow with that. And like, for example, there's a woman called Elisa Vitti who talks about the woman code or flow living. And that's actually using your diet and your exercise and, even booking appointments, all depending on where you are in your cycle to like optimize those. And for example, so we're talking a lot about period pain and menstruation. That's a really important time to like rest and maybe say no to some commitments and take more time for yourself. And, and here's another thing too, is those 4 different women that I was referring to back then, depending on how the woman is, flowing through her cycle, if you will reflect a lot of what her behaviors are. For example, when I don't take time for myself and when I've overcommitted or overbooked myself during my menstruation, I become really irritable and really grouchy. And like, I'm not very pleasant to be around because I'm not honoring this phase. I'm not taking care of myself, right? And so yeah. Does that make sense?
Yeah, no, I think there's a lot of wisdom in that, and what comes to mind that's maybe more accessible to someone in the season of the year. You know, you're not going to have the same diet and activity level in winter as you are in summer. So, of course, if you're now mindful, oh, wait, it's winter, this is the more appropriate way to conduct myself, then I can be happier and more comfortable. So, yeah, it totally makes sense.